So, ladies and gentlemen, all I can say, a big part of rock and roll history died today. What I call the fifth member of the Monkees. Well, with his longtime partner, they were fifth and sixth. Some of the best songwriters in the history of rock and roll of pop. But the second half of Boyce and Hart, Bobby Hart, born Robert Luke Harshman, has died. Actually, he died earlier this week, ladies and gentlemen, only made public today on September 14th. They were an American duo of singer-songwriters. In addition to several top 40 hits as artists, the duo is well known for his songwriting for the Monkees and other artists. Now, Hart's father was a church minister, and he himself served in the army after leaving high school. Upon discharge, he traveled to LA seeking a career as a singer. Boyce was separately pursuing a career as a songwriter. After being rejected numerous times, Boyce took his father's suggestion to write a song called Be My Guest for Fats Domino. He waited 6 hours at Domino's hotel room to present him with the demo and got Domino to promise to listen to the song. Released in '59, the song hit number 8 in the US and number 11 in the UK, becoming Domino's biggest hit there in several years. It sold over 1 million copies. Boyce also found success as co-writer with Curtis Lee of Lee's 61 hits, Pretty Little Angel Eyes and Under the Moon of Love. Now, Bobby Hart, born in Phoenix, met Boyce in 1959, and the following year Boyce played guitar on Hart's single Girl in the Window, which flopped, but marked the first time he used the name Bobby Hart since his manager shortened his surname from Harshman to fit the label. Their partnership made a breakthrough with a song recorded by Chubby Checker, Lazy Elsie Molly in '64. They went on to write hits for Jay and the Americans, Come a Little Bit Closer, Come a Little Bit Closer, Paul Revere and the Raiders, the original version of I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, and the Leaves, Words, which was covered by the Monkees. The latter two songs provided the Monkees with hit B-sides in '67. The duo also wrote the theme song for the daytime soap opera Days of Our Lives. At one point in this period, Hart also co-wrote Hurt So Bad for Little Auntie and the Imperials, with Teddy Randazzo as his regular songwriting partner, Bob Weinstein. Boyce co-wrote the song Hello Pretty Girl, which was a minor hit for singer Ronnie Dove with Wes Farrell. Now, he also wrote Peaches and Cream by the Inkettes. Now, in late '65, the duo wrote, produced, and performed the soundtrack, the pilot for the Monkees, including singing lead vocals, which were later replaced once the show was cast. In '66, despite some conflicts with Don Kirshner, who was the show's musical supervisor, they were retained in essentially the same role. It was Boyce and Hart who wrote, produced, and recorded, accompanied by their backing band, the Candy Store Prophets, backing tracks for a large portion of the first season of Monkees and the band's accompanying debut album. The Monkees themselves re-recorded their vocals over Boyce and Hart's demos when it came time to release the songs, including both the theme for the Monkees and Last Train to Clarksville, the latter being a huge hit. Kirshner suddenly relieved Boyce and Hart as producers by claiming they were using studio time booked for Monkee songs to record tracks for their own solo project. After the departure from the Monkees and the negative publicity that erupted when word got out that the band had not played the instruments on early records, Boyce and Hart were unsure how the Monkees felt about them personally. Attending one of their concerts, though, the duo was spotted in the audience, and singer Davy Jones invited him on stage to introduce him. These are the fellows that wrote our great hits, Tommy and Bobby. Every original Monkees album, except for the Head soundtrack and 96 Justice, including Boyce and Hart songs. While working with the Monkees, Boyce and Hart embarked on a successful career as recording artists in their own right, releasing 3 albums on A&M. The duo also had 5 charting singles. The most well-known of these was I Wonder What She's Doing Tonight, which reached number 8 in early '68. It sold 1 million copies and awarded a gold disc. Out and About, Alice Long were their other top 40 hits. The duo also performed on Bewitched, a song called I'll Blow You a Kiss in the Wind, in one of several TV series appearances that included guest spots on the Flying Nun and The Dream of Jeannie, Jeannie the Hip Hippie performing Girl, I'm Out to Get You. All these shows were produced by Screen Gems, which was a television subsidiary of Columbia Pictures. Each of the 3 sitcom guest appearances featured their music, including 2 unreleased covers they performed on The Flying Nun. Now, he also did video promos for Out and About and Alice Long. Now, they were also involved in producing music for Columbia Pictures motion pictures during the mid-late '60s, including 2 Mad Hill movies, And he also provided the music score for a TV movie called Trees a Crowd with Larry Hagman and Jessica Walter. He also did promos for the U.S. Army Reserve and Coca-Cola. This included the creation of 2 Coca-Cola commercial jingles, one being a powerful psychedelic song called Wake Up Girl, while the other was her single Smilin' with totally different lyrics. In 1974, a sitcom called Getting Together appeared on ABC TV, starring Bobby Sherman and Wes Stern as 2 struggling songwriters who were friends of the Partridge Family. The series were reportedly based loosely on Boyce and Hart's partnership. At this point, he decided to work on various solo projects, and Hart also co-wrote the 1974 Helen Reddy hit Keep On Singing. Came out in the mid-70s. Now, with Dolenz and Jones, they created a super band called, performing the songs Boyce and Hart had written for the Monkees a decade before. Legally prohibited from using the Monkees name, or they call it Monkees Mach 2, they call themselves Dolenz, Jones, Boyce and Hart. The group toured amusement parks and other venues throughout America, Japan, and other locations from July 4th, 1975 to early 1977, also becoming the first American band to play in Thailand. Signed to Capitol by Al Corey, the group released an album of new material in 1976. A live album was also recorded in Japan, but was not released in the States until the mid-90s. The tours coincided with the syndication of the Monkees TV series and helped boost sales of Arista's The Monkees' Greatest Hits. Now, they also had their TV special as well, The Foursome, The Great Golden Hits of the Monkey Show, which appeared in syndication. Very, very great show, by the way. Now, Boyce tried a solo career under the pseudonym Christopher Cloud in 1973, but it didn't go too high. In 1979, he did form his own band called the Tommy Band and toured the UK as support for Andrew Matheson, ex of the Hollywood Brats. The tour was largely ignored, unfortunately. Now, during the same year, 1979, the first Bobby Hart solo album was released in Europe on Wea Records. The group included Bobby Hart, Victor Vanacore, Larry Taylor, and Vince Megna on guitar, John Hoke on drums, and Blue Jay Patton on saxophone. 5 years later, in 1983, Hart was nominated for an Oscar for his song Over You, written for the film Tender Mercy, starring Robert Duvall. Now, Boyce and Hart did reunite during the 1980s resurgence of the Monkees and performed together live. After a stint living in UK, Boyce returned to live in Memphis, where he taught songwriting on Beale Street in Nashville, Tennessee. Unfortunately, his battle with depression led to a brain aneurysm, and unfortunately, he passed away by his own hand in November of 1994. Now, Hart passed away this week at the age of 86. Now, according to Rolling Stone Encyclopedia of Rock and Roll, Boyce and Hart wrote more than 300 songs and sold more than 42 million records as a partnership. Now, big songs, of course, singles. Again, I Wonder What She's Doing Tonight. Alice Long was very, very strong. And they had 2 singles with Dolenz, Jones, Boyce and Hart. I Remember the Feeling, Back With You and I Love You and I'm Glad That I Said It, back with Saving My Love For You. Now, again, they had middling success as solo artists, but there's no doubt that the smoothness of their lyrics and the smoothness of their presentation will last forever, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think Boyce and Hart did anything but make the Monkees much, much bigger than they could have been, because they were the guide for it. This is like the Montreal Canes are Shut Lemaire and Mahavlich and Shut Lemaire and Lafleur, okay? On the first line. They were the first line in the Monkees. But the artists of the Monkees, Dolenz, Nesbitt, Jones, and Torque, benefited from Boyce and Hart's guidance as musicians, guidance as songwriters. Don Kirshner didn't learn them anything other than getting the best money you could. But Boyce and Hart, my God, what a tremendous duo. And Rock and Roll Hall of Fames around the world would do much to put them in. Rock and roll, or pop rock as we call it, or bubblegum pop. I mean, the Monkees remain probably a top 5 band of all time for pop rock. And it's because of Boyce and Hart. We owe them a lot. So Hart is going to be very, very missed. And, they're up in heaven probably doing music as we speak. And I'm making a request. Last Train to Clarksville. Rock on, brothers. So if you like what we're doing here or Behind the Tracks podcast as tribute to fallen artists, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.